Today is Yom HaShoah, Holocaust Memorial Day, when in Israel and all over the world we commemorate and we Jew in hate. And the Lubavitcher Rebbe of blessed memory taught us that we have to hunt down every single Jew and seek them out with love. As bad and as devious and as evil as humanity could stoop to, as the Nazis, is the possibility for us to reach that height in love. In fact, this week's Torah portion, we speak and we learn about evil gossip. And interestingly, it comes right after last week in the Torah portion. We read about the kosher animals and non-kosher animals. And Rashi, the greatest commentary, asks the question, why do we first read about the kosher and non-kosher animals and only afterwards about the human beings and leprosy? And Rashi says that the reason is because it could go twofold. Because from one perspective, God says, just like imagine if you had a great king or a great celebrity that was coming to a party, you would prepare everything for them before. So too God created everything in the world before mankind. And that's why mankind was created last, because we had everything prepared for us when we came into this world. That everything else was created before the human being, because when the human being doesn't behave the way they're supposed to, even a fly, even a bug is greater than them. And it's to remind us that, the two-edge, that when we act and behave in a moral, ethical, spiritual way, the way God expected us to, then everything was created before us for our sake. But vice versa, when heaven forbid we act in a devious way, we act in a way that's unbecoming, unmoral, immoral, then we are the lowest of all creatures. You know, you think about the Holocaust. If we would have a moment of silence for every single Jew that was murdered by the Nazis, you would have to be silent for 12 years, day and night. It's something beyond the human imagination to fathom how devious and what a destruction the Nazis did. And what's even more so, sometimes people say that, oh, evil comes from people who are silly, who are unsophisticated. But that's not true. When the Nazis had the wannabe conference and they decided on the final solution, there was 15 people who voted in the Nazi regime. 8 of them had PhDs, and unanimously they voted for the final solution. Never underestimate the evil of how low people could stoop, and even if they're educated. And sometimes we see it today in the world. Also, it wasn't just that they wanted to get rid of the Jews in Germany. They sought out every Jew in the world. They wanted to annihilate the entire race of the Jewish people, just like Haman. In fact, they had a plan for the 200 Jews who lived in Albania, how they were going to get them and how they were going to kill them. And when there's such hate in such an irrational way, the Nazis were still, when they were losing the war and they didn't have enough money, they rather had sent troops and money to Hungary to kill another 200 or 100,000 Jews instead of trying to win the war, because their hate was so irrational. But we could also never forget what happened in Warsaw, where they took 30% of the population of Warsaw was Jewish, and they put them into 2.5% of the space, into the Warsaw ghetto. And by the time 1943 came, they had already killed 260,000 of the 320,000 Jews, and there was only 60,000 Jews left. And those 60,000 Jews were courageous and brave. We had the Warsaw Uprising, which lasted a full month, and courageous Jews without guns without ammunition, no soldiers, emaciated from starvation, fought till their final moment when they were all killed. But there was one woman whose name was Tova Gutstein, who escaped at 10 years old. She was born in 1933, and she was in the Warsaw Ghetto, and she escaped through the sewer pipes and ended up spending 2 years with the partisans in the woods till she came to Israel, married, and built a family. This woman, Tova, whose name means good, was honored last night at Yad Vashem to light one of the 6 candles that is lit for the 6 million Jews who were killed. Today she lives in Israel. She has 3 children, 8 grandchildren, and I think 16 or so great-grandchildren. She reminds us of the courage, of the strength of the Jewish people in the face of adversity. But just last week over Passover, we were reminded again about the depth of evil that humanity could stoop to, but also the greatest of heights that humanity could rise to. On the second day of Passover, the D family was driving when a terrorist and evil man gunned down 2 sisters and then shot the mother, Lucy, who succumbed to her wounds and died too. And before she was dying, her husband, Rabbi D, had the presence of mind to gather with his family, and they decided to donate her organs in a halachic way. And they took her kidneys, her liver, her heart, and with that they saved 5 people and gave them life that they should be able to live a healthier, longer, happier life. So here you saw the depth of evil by this terrorist, but you also saw the depth of how high a human being could rise, and the depth of their anguish, of their pain, of their suffering to save another human being. And that's why this week's Torah portion reminds us that humanity was created last, and why we first read about the animals and only afterwards about the humans. Because when human beings rise to their greatest height, then everything was prepared for them. But when they stoop to their lowest levels, they're less worthy than even a mosquito or a bug. Remember today that the greatest way to remember the 6 million that were killed is by doing something meaningful to perpetuate their lives Jewishly, through charity, through acts of goodness and kindness, through wrapping tefillin, through studying, through praying, through lighting Shabbos candles, because only through that will we be able to perpetuate them spiritually and continue their lives. God bless you, and have a good